So in this episode of Don't, we're looking at Don't Present. And this is one that you brought to the table, Claire. So let's just establish, what do we mean by Don't Present?
Basically, I often do a lot of sales presentation courses, and the very first slide I ever put up is, this is the number one tip that nobody ever tells you, which is basically, as a salesperson, do not present. So what do I mean by that? So I carry on?
Exactly.
Sorry.
Why? Because that sounds counterintuitive.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, that's the end of the program, so they can all go home. But of course they don't.
Cool.
So what I say is, I say do not present, because the situation behind it is normally that we've approached a customer, we've done some warm prospecting, and we've managed to persuade them to, and they eventually say to us something like, okay, come and tell me all about your company's capability, or come and tell me all about your company's capability in this area. And so when they say, come and tell me all about, the customer never, ever means present at me for 10 minutes and do the company presentation. And that's the issue, is if it's a sales presentation, the real purpose of a sales presentation is to influence and educate the customer. We want it to be interactive, because we know that selling is not telling.
Okay, so thinking about it then, so people are going to think presenting is a good idea, because I guess they're going to think, well, my stuff's really interesting. The customer wants to hear it. They want to get all this information, all my sort of golden nuggets of stuff. And what you're saying is the customer probably doesn't want that at that stage?
Absolutely. I think the salesperson thinks, I've got a pitch that's already ready, the company presentation, I might have tailored it a tiny bit, but it's got logos on, it's got the company history, normally the classic first slide of we were founded in. The customer doesn't care. Really doesn't care about it. And salespeople go into this natural present mode. When they hear the word present or tell me about, they think they have to talk at a customer. Now, of course, some presentations, formal, board level, closing presentations, may be that type. I'm talking about sales presentations where the purpose is to influence somebody. And if it's early in the sale, what we should be doing is getting some discovery from that. So it must be interactive.
Okay, so again, I'm just thinking that a salesperson will be thinking, well, I want to present because it's also very quick to get ideas across. You know, I've got all my stuff, here it is, my logos and my history and all this ready to go. That's what people want. So this is where they're making the mistake.
Correct, yes. So what they've done is they've gone very much sales-led. They're using their sales tools without thinking about the client. And what I'm saying is, let's think about the client more and be client-led when we have to go and talk to the customer or present to them.
Right. So this is why the thinking is flawed. And then picking up on what you said as well, it sounds as though that if you're not careful, you're going to bore people pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I often say to people, and just everybody who's listening, just think to this. If you've ever had a customer who says on the 8th or 9th slide, that last slide was really interesting, what they're actually saying to you is the rest has been complete bollocks. Right. Or ridiculous.
So we want. And
what they've said is, finally, you've got to something that's useful and interesting. Because what we tend to do, most of these standard sales presentations tend to start off, and basically what you're doing is you're weeing all over the customer. You're going, we are this, we are this, we are this. And what the customer wants to hear is things, okay, if you've got something, talk to me about my situation. Now, the challenge is, of course, salespeople will say, well, I don't really know about the customer's situation. And I'll say, no, that's lazy salesmanship. You've got your research, find out the company, the industry, the title of the person you're going to speak to. So tailor it. So what you could do is something like this. Okay, I understand. So two top tips. One is, I would say, when someone says to you, yeah, come and tell me all about, or bring your company presentation, they're just rushing along. They don't really mean come and present at me. So in which case, instead of say to them, do you actually want a formal presentation, or would you prefer a roundtable discussion? So simple. And then immediately, 99.9% of customers will say, roundtable discussion is what I meant. Great. So then treat it as a meeting and have an agenda. And of course, feel free to have some slides if you want. So then at the beginning of the presentation or whatever, the meeting, I'd like you to say something like this. Okay, well, thanks for the meeting. As today's the objective today, whatever, is to give you an overview of our capability with a clear objective for you to see if we might be able to help you in this area. There must be objective. We're never just presenting for the sake of presenting, to see and discuss the possibility of becoming a supplier, for example. And then you can say, look, I've got some slides here ready to talk to you about, but before we even go to that, what I understand about your company so far is this. Can I check that's correct? And what what are some of your challenges in this area? And if I can understand that first, what I'll do is I'll make sure I tailor the rest of it so we're focused on the areas that you're particularly concerned in. So we can tailor it in flight as well, which then becomes two-way, it's interactive, and it's very, very consultative.
Brilliant. Okay, so let me just repeat a couple of those things. So the first thing is, it's not to have your happy ears, to go, oh, they want to hear all about me. It's, they've said present, stop, collect myself, and just clarify exactly what they mean. They probably mean round table. And if I can set it up as that, if we set it up as that, that's actually going to be a far more interactive and a better quality discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether people label it a presentation, whatever, it doesn't matter too much.
Yeah.
Then do your homework, which hopefully you'd have done anyway, but if not, just really make sure there's a lot of good stuff about them in. So when you're presenting, the actual bit where you are giving information, you're giving information to them about them.
Yes, and relative to them as well.
Right.
You said this earlier, or because I saw on your website this, I thought this might be interesting. And they could say, oh, actually, that's wrong on our website. We don't do that anymore, in which case we adjust. And it suddenly makes it more interactive. And once you get this mindset about it, because as you know, I'm quite big on mindset, the salesperson doesn't panic so much because it's not a formal presentation anymore. So don't panic about it. Yes, take a presentation slides along with you, but make sure they're tailored and make it as part of the meeting, as opposed to the presentation is the meeting, and it's slightly different. So basically, in those situations, particularly when you're early in the sales cycle, when you're trying to present your capability, don't present it. Don't make it one way, because as soon as we hear present or PowerPoint, we think it should be one way, and what we want it to be is interactive and two-way.
Okay, so in summary, don't present means just check what they're meaning, try to make it as interactive as possible. Correct. The meaning could actually be, yes, it is a presentation.
Yeah, it might
double
be,
checked, and I'm going into tell mode, and that's exactly what's the right thing to do here. But more often than not, it's just structure the conversation a little bit differently, and don't kind of trick yourself that they are sat there waiting, desperate to hear all the stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, if the customer does want a presentation and it's a formal presentation and it's an ROI or a cost benefit analysis or a proposal presentation, it's very, very formal, then of course you need to have some really good presentation skills. And by the way, I love training people in the board level closing presentations, because that's a different game completely.
And you don't just say don't.
Yeah, and then I don't say don't.
Oh, brilliant. That's really cool. Thank you so much for bringing that to the table. It makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to everyone that's listened to that. So when we hear present, don't.
Think don't first. That's great. Really, thanks for time for this, Fred. Really enjoyed it. I'm off for a coffee.
Okay.